So it's Thursday, the 5th of February, and I'm at the library, which is a place of power for me, and I can already feel the prana of the books and the stories coming through. And in this moment on the quest, I'm witnessing how my ongoing journey through shadow into bringing the quest back to the people and going through fear of exposure, going through deep rooted inner child based things, and where I witness, it's when you witness how much of your own access has been occluded or blocked because of subconscious patterns, it's very easy to judge or hate the self. I certainly go through that because the outer adult wants to do something, and then the inner child has actually blocked my access, where the fear and the thing has been so intense from the trauma that I literally couldn't even remember that I wanted to do something. I would forget. And there are other times I would create a video or I would do a thing and then I would just completely forget about it. And part of that, for sure, given my Akashic perspective and my vantage of as an avatar of the library, has to do with me not understanding the earth plane. And that's really part of the ongoing journey into the earth plane that has been my lifelong quest, where I'm looking at, what is the thing that brings us to the treasure, through the trauma, and what is the trauma? And is the valor sharing the truth about the trauma in order to process it? I realized, and it's really intense because it's I've always considered it struggling with an invisible jailer, where there's something that, it's when Carl Jung was saying, if you don't make the unconscious conscious, you'll be ruled by that and you'll call it fate. And I've always wondered how much of our circumstance is these hidden patterns in our consciousness, and how much of it is just absolutely fated. Because in a meta sense, it's whatever you're going through, it is fated because it's happening. And there's something to the crucible of it, even for me right now, I feel my body doing this, and I don't like that. You know what I'm saying? That's not me in superhero, rock star mode. That's me in kind of a mode, and now I'm in a fight with myself, right? Where I'm demanded to be compassionate towards something, and I'm required to accept that I'm only realizing that at this point. And where there's real fear in sharing it, because a part of me would love to be I made it back from the quest, I crushed it, it's this, and this huge sense of not having achieved what it is I've wanted to achieve comes up, in terms of something I can't even it's an ideal. And when I say this, this is meant to relate to any of us that really go through that, to any of us who really go through what it means to face these challenges and to face these patterns inside of the self, where we don't even know, we're in a fight with something, we're trying to resolve something with an invisible jailer, or where, at least in my case, where it's it took me years to really see how far I had gone and how much I was longing for intimacy and connection, but it wasn't there, and where I would retreat to, just anything, fantasy, or, just avoidance, to avoid the pain and the trauma of connecting with the people, yet in my heart really wanting to connect with the people. Not all the time, I like my space, but it's and realizing that it had come from such a huge disappointment of not being met for so long, and where I felt as though everything was just constant process, it never ended. and where I myself was fragmenting so much that I couldn't even consistently see my own value. See, like that I was bringing the Mythica to the world, and that I was like mapping out the landscapes of legend and showcasing the hero's journey by going through the very thing itself, and then going through this whole existential thing of like, oh, why did I have to get to this age before like I could realize this? Oh, well, I have to do something about that to accept myself. Or why do I have to be grateful for the opportunity to suffer? Or feeling as though like I've just missed out on really fundamental aspects of Earth life, while people around me in total not understanding or compassion would say, oh, you've lived a really full life, you've traveled around, you've done all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but the whole time I was also negotiating this deep thing that like had me in shackles some of the time. And where some of those things were, there was always the question, like, what if those is the self, something inside, something traumatic that you have to be kind towards, or whatever way you have to deal with because it's working against your will. It's like a subconscious will that's working against your actual will. And where the journey into that, the journey of moving through that, becomes the quest itself. It becomes like the micro movements that we make to open up our energies, to be in a deeper level of authenticity. And where, my recent, like for me, this always plays out in like the mythos of the landscape, that there's a relationship between the things that occur on our landscape, which form the substance of our stories, and then what you're going through in that way. So for example, with myself, over the years, I've gained a lot of access to my own singing, to be able to create the lyrics and to sing and to be in the moment and really feel the strength of that. And I've gained so much in dancing and in story and all these things. And where I've had progressive victories granting me more access to the treasure inside of myself. And this is really, really what I'm on about in Into the Mythica, where I'm saying that I don't care who you are, we're all going through shadow, we're all going through trauma. And what happens in our field is related to that. And it's a very nuanced thing. Like for me, I really wanted to have clarity because I was drowning in inconstancy. The nature of my, let's call it like my hero's blessing, is that I have like vast range. Like I have can go to very, very extreme places in the consciousness. And the hero's burden was that I couldn't control it. And that I would like move from one realm to another along the Bifrost and the Rainbow Bridge of consciousness. And I would just get lost. And so everything became about gathering the pieces of myself. This is like the classic myth of Osiris or something like that, where you're gathering the pieces of yourself to come back to wholeness. It's like your soul retrieval, or you're this, that, other thing. And it's playing out. It played out for me on the quest itself. It played out for me in like the little braveries that I did, the moments when I let myself express myself, the moments when I faced something that was frightening to me, the moments when I like saw an opportunity in mythopoetic format to engage in a ritual of story. Like for example, when I was in San Francisco, I was driving in San Francisco, I was Ubering around, and I picked somebody up, and I was totally feeling open in my voice, and I was like singing with them, karaoke. People love riding with me, right? It's not I would rather be publishing Mythica all the time. But as I get her out there, my sacred capacity as Hermes Trismegistus, chariot driver to the gods, is epic. And so I was singing with people like an inspired karaoke session, and they told me about a place called Pandora's. And Pandora's was like a karaoke club, like right in the middle of summer in San Francisco. And I went there recognizing that it was like Pandora's box, and that the hope lay at the bottom of the thing. And when I went in there, I had the intention to like sing a song. I'd never done that before. And I'm actually a great singer. right? It's like I have lots of vocal skill and ability. A lot of people are like, oh my God, dude, you're so amazing with the Bardic. But for me to gain access to that has required facing that, where even to get to the point where I'm like really willing to be in that completely has been a huge journey through the landscape of that. And where when I went to Pandora's, I sang Demons by Imagine Dragons and could feel myself like facing the edge of my own willingness to be like seen in my voice, where my normal like clarity of like tone and all these other things, I was like when I was up on the stage, but I faced it, and in facing it, I gained more access. Like I came back to the hope that life could be better, that I could have more access to my thing. And as I've been in Jamul here in San Diego, like I've been singing more, I've been doing this, I've been doing that, and it feels like an energetic opening. And in the physics of the quest, this is the nature of the quest. Like things happen, you have an opportunity to use like the energy of something to move forward. It's like where we encounter something that is archetypical for our mythos. In my case, with the Greco-Roman devotion to the Muses, Pandora's box was like, wow, or just Pandora, right? Which is also, of course, the name of like, the pristine jungle world from the Avatar series, and where, I've come from this culture where beings like there, it's all about that expression of the voice. And as I do this video, like one of the things that I'm really on about is letting myself be seen. Where every action itself is like a dealing with that false evidence appearing real kind of, super frightened child being like negotiated by the outer adult. And where like I've actually had to, like for years, I've actually had to like do something because my access would be gone. Like gone. Like I have access to something to be super majestic and then gone. And where I would do videos and then I would just forget that I did the video. So complete was the invisible jailer. And, when I looked at this and I'm experiencing like the deep regret at that and the deep anger at the self at that and like the wow of that, it doesn't help at all to consider that other people are going through that. That there's a sense of like, because you just want the victory, and so there's a sense of gradually coming into realization that this is what everyone is going through, that in one way or another everyone is negotiating the return of the treasure of themselves, the access point. And when I look at the Mythica and I look at my desire to share what I've discovered on the quest, what I really see is that even getting to that point of sharing is a journey across the shadowlands of our own splintered psyche, one peppered by the geometries of the mythology that defines our identity. And that in my capacity as an adventurer, I have lived that firsthand. And where I can say that even in the creation of this video and the intent to upload it immediately to the YouTube, right? And the desire to like create the social media, start bringing things forward, that I can see how something in me has been fragmenting because of the desire to hide. And where so many years of healing have been around that. And in this, it's like there is agitation, but there is also a sense of ongoing victory held within a question of, could this have happened sooner? Was it destined, really destined? Not just subconsciously you think it's destined, but really it's a repetitive pattern. Like, was it really destined, like by the Norns? like by the fates? Like, did I have to be here in San Diego at this moment in the Quest in 2026, doing this from the library, about to go to an event at Amazing Art Space to see Samson Love and connect with the Kundalini community as an actual ritual of, I'm going to connect with community. I'm not going to go back to the land. I'm really going to make this conscious decision. And I guess in the nature of this from the Quest, I'm saying that, like, this is real. This is what we all deal with in our own way. And so, in closing, I would say that today is a day of progress, of reclaiming that part of myself that has the hope that things can be better, and that the resonance and relationship with the world and with the self may come to greater and greater harmony. That being said, the quest continues. I'm Peter Fay. May you live your myth.